Manchester United could look to sell Jesse Lingard for as much as £25 million this summer. Declan Rice is high on the transfer target list for Ollie. Will the Jesse Lingard deal be used as a softener and as a sweetener to land the CDM, the much touted CDM that multiple Premier League clubs are looking at? And Edinson Cavani is still undecided whether or not he would stay, but Manchester United are working night and day to keep the Uruguayan at Old Trafford. Smash that like and share button. Let's go, people. Morning. Welcome one and all. Hope you're all having wonderful starts to your day. Ramadan Mubarak to all of our Muslim viewers. I hope this is a joyous month for you all and you get out of it everything that you are seeking for yourselves. Good morning, Shirik. Hope you are well. Your first day of fasting. If we can just help you through an hour or so each day with the content we create here at the Football Terrace, that will give us a very deep and humble feeling. It will. Morning to David, another member of ours, says, I like Ndidi. However, Rice can be a good signing and makes sense using agent Lingard as part of the deal. It absolutely could, and we're going to go through that in a bit more detail. I'd love Ndidi as well, but you're talking about 70 million quid for him. There could be a bit of better business to do elsewhere. Not a problem, Sharik. Absolutely. Talking with H, not a problem. No thanks required at all. Let's go through some of these stories in a bit more. Actually, I'll do a few more mornings and hellos first of all. Strip Bear says, very early show. Brilliant. Please like the stream. Share with your magnificent friends and family. You extraordinary bunch of fantastic human beings. That is a very lovely message to all of you from Lady Strip Bear this morning. So good morning to you, Strip Bear. Hope you are well. Alexander, good morning to you, another Football Terrace member. Good morning to Glazer out. No way we are getting Rice and Sancho. Glazers would never. Morning, Shane. Good morning. Where's that new intro, Chad, is for match reactions only. We are currently building and working with a few companies. We will eventually have a new intro for every single show. So they'll all have their own exclusive intro rather than just one. So watch this space. We're doing the work behind the scenes now. But it all just takes time. It all just takes a little bit of time. So let's delve into some of these stories in a bit more detail this morning. They are kind of all interlinked. A lot of this information has come from Laurie Whitwell. Listen to his podcast this morning very early on in the day to go through a lot of this. And a lot of what's been said again, it's doubling down on what Man United's approach is going to be this summer. So we're going to go through it in a little bit more detail. But let me give you the main bullet points and the main headlines. So Declan Rice to Manchester United is on. It is a conceivable and possible transfer this summer. Jesse Lingard, for most people, is likely to be sold. There is some talk about him coming back into the squad, playing a bigger part in the season. But most football fans think and feel, most football people think and feel that Jesse Lingard will be sold. Man United had very little interest in Jesse Lingard going into the January transfer window. There were very few parties that wanted to look at him and buy him. West Ham, of course, came in for the loan. They tried to instill an option to buy clause for around £10 million at that point. Man United rejected it and said, let's cross that line in the summer. Should you still want to buy him? Turns out to be fantastic business by Manchester United because it's now enabled them to dictate the price. £25 million is what industry insiders think Manchester United will get for him this summer. We then have to factor in that one of Man United's key targets is Declan Rice. What's also now helping Manchester United is there are many other clubs that are now knocking on the door and saying to Ed Woodward and co that we're interested in Jesse Lingard. Man United are going to try and use this to drive up the price in the short term of Jesse Lingard. Where Man United are going to try and use this to their advantage is with the Declan Rice situation. It's unlikely that on paper there'll be a swap deal or a player plus cash. These are very, very rare in football. You will probably see two independent deals, but there'll be a gentleman's agreement in between that will act as almost that make weight that's being suggested by the mainstream media. So Man United will get a good deal on Rice if West Ham get priority and a good deal on Jesse Lingard. The only stumbling block in this deal is that Jesse Lingard has stated to Manchester United that if they are to sell him, he would personally seek Champions League football. So say Leicester make the top 4 and Leicester want him, I'm not saying they do, this is hypothetical, and West Ham do, he won't choose West Ham over Leicester if he's offered a really good place and squad status in a Champions League team. But Man United are looking at Declan Rice. They do want to try and use the Jesse Lingard situation as a softener, as a make weight to try and bring him in. So for every single goal that Jesse Lingard is scoring, it is big, big news for Manchester United. Terry, is it true that Real Madrid are looking at Lingard as well? For me, no. There's been no real credible source that has come out and confirmed that this is true. PSG also look. PSG, I wouldn't be surprised if PSG have signed a few interesting players. Edinson Cavani and Herrera, who for me weren't really at the level of a lot of their other players at their clubs. So maybe. But Real Madrid, I wouldn't have thought so. But listen, let's jump on the rumor mill and pretend it's true. Let's ram that down the throats of all the actual interested parties and see whether we can get more money. In other news this morning, the Edinson Cavani situation is very interesting indeed. Man United want him to stay. They are currently in conversations with trying to get him to stay. One of the comments I read, or heard actually more than read, to be fair, says Solskjaer would love to keep Edinson Cavani for one more season, but the arrangement has to be right for both parties. And this one, and this is the one the Man United manager, sorry, I'm reading this wrong. But the arrangement has to be right for both parties. And this is one Man United manager that won't get in the way of family ties. So basically, if Cavani doesn't want to stay because he wants to be closer to his family, Ollie isn't going to force it. But Man United want him at the club because they believe that not only will he score goals, but Man United having Edinson Cavani re-sign the deal, they believe gives them a lot more leverage in negotiations for the Haalands and Harry Kanes and even the Sanchos of this world. And what's really important to remember about the Haaland, Kane and Sancho stories is Man United have said they are determined to not be dragged through a summer-long saga again. If they cannot get the deals done quickly and early, or if those deals scamper other transfers from coming in, Man United are likely to walk away. If there is the perceived notion of desperation because Cavani leaves, as an example, Man United put themselves in a very difficult situation to negotiate. But if Cavani signs on the dotted line for a new deal, it does make it, in expert opinion, easier for Manchester United to negotiate the deals for other said attackers because there isn't the perception of desperation. Thus, Man United gets a lot more leverage. Plus, it removes the pressure on Man United. The pressure for them to bring in additional firepower is removed. It's Edinson Cavani stays. So that's something Man United are working really, really hard on. But Ollie isn't going to try and force the player into signing. They're not going to try and trigger the extension without Cavani being 100% happy. There is no point keeping unhappy players in the modern day game. But it's certainly some good news again this morning for Manchester United. It demonstrates, at least verbally, the new direction that Man United are trying to go in terms of how we behave in the transfer market. The proof is always going to be in the pudding. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. But Lingard is going to be key to Man United's incoming signings this summer. Cavani could be key to us getting a Sancho-esque player a lot quicker and a lot easier without all the same fuss and hullabaloo that surrounded the saga last year. But it could all go the other way. It could all go the other way if we mess up the sale of Lingard, if we lose Cavani and then get dragged into these sagas. That will prove to a lot of Man United fans that this new structure isn't working or isn't worth the paper that it is written on. I do want your views and I do want your opinions on these stories this morning. Ollie is doing a Fergie there, respect. In fairness, most clubs are like that. Most clubs, when a player walks into that chairman's office and says, I really want to leave for X, Y, and Z reasons, family, career, to win trophies, very often you will not see a club stand in the way. Even for any normal organization, normal business, normal company, keeping disenfranchised staff members, players, colleagues, subordinates, whatever word you want to use to describe someone, it's a dangerous approach. It very rarely yields success. Even if that person is professional, they've still made a conscious decision to leave. That's why most companies will send you on gardening leave rather than have you in the workforce still. Good morning, DJ. He says, good morning, Terry. Everyone in the chat, hope you are well. Yes, very, very well this morning indeed. Make sure everyone who's tuning in is smashing that like button for us right now. Comment here says, what are your thoughts on the rumours Man United are in talks of buying the Australian club in the A-League? When I grew up, Man United had quite a lot of feeder clubs. Royal Antwerp, Sporting Lisbon were actually a proper sort of a feeder club into Man United and whatnot. I think from a business point of view, it makes sense. We've seen Manchester City. I think they have a team in New York. They have the team in Melbourne. So it kind of makes sense if Man United could add that to their arsenal. As an example, helps with income, helps with branding and whatnot else. I'm not too sure of the details around it, but from a business point of view, it wouldn't make too much sense. Terry, you look knackered. No, I'm good. Do you know what it is? It's my lights are bright and it just shows up my very pale skin. I'm good, bruv. Good night's sleep, feeling great. But thank you for pointing out how tired I'm looking, mate. But no, I'm all good. I absolutely promise you that. Chris here says he's 35 next season. Listen, on the Cavani deal, like I say, would I prefer Kane? If someone said now, Magic one time, Cavani leaves, Harry Kane comes in. Cavani leaves, Haaland comes in. I would say yes to it. It all depends about the long-term plans. It isn't just Man United that look like they might want to pull away from these Haaland and these Harry Kane talks. Man United, Man City have both made it very, very clear that they are not looking to be drawn into a long, drawn-out saga. The kind of money that's being spoken about when it comes to Erling Haaland, 400, 500 grand a week. There was a rumor earlier on, a few days ago, actually, that Mino Raiola, inside the next 3 to 4 years, wants to make Haaland the first £1 million a week player. Man United are already pushing back, saying we're not getting involved in any of this nonsense. We'll hold back a little bit. Now, there's always a risk when you hold back that another club comes in, pays that money. If Chelsea come in and pay that money, 400 grand a week and 150 million pound, it sets a new benchmark within the game. So you say, okay, City and Man United have lost out in this, and they're now going to have to up how much they pay for anybody else because the new benchmark has been set. However, if nobody comes in and spends that money, it lowers the cost in the landscape, and Man United and Man City and everybody else win. These are the risks that you have to take. Dortmund did it last summer with Jadon Sancho. They stuck to their pre-COVID, pre-no fan price, thinking they could convince Man United to spend it. Man United didn't. Man United now may get him for around £80 million. Still no fans at Dortmund, money required. Maybe no Champions League football at Dortmund, even more money required. So it really changes that landscape massively. So I understand the point that Cavani is 35, but you have to also look at the business element of the game here. It's very, very important to remember that at all times. We're going to take your calls. I'm going to share the link now, but I want to just shout out very quickly, Manscaped, our title sponsors. You can still get 20% off of all their male grooming products right now. Get those Kiwis back in shape. I know the gyms have opened. People are getting their holidays books. The pubs are opening again. So get your Kiwis in shape. Get your ball toner. Get your ball deodorant, boys. Get yourselves ready for a wonderful, hopefully free summer for you all to go out and express yourselves. You know, go on some dates, meet some nice ladies, meet some nice guys, whatever your preference is. But get your Manscaped products right now so that your nether regions are as fresh as possible. Get those Kiwis in absolutely spit spot shape. Also, make sure you sign up to our Discord server as well. The best, up to nearly 3,000 members in there now. The best football chat room in the world. We made a few new people moderators the other day just to keep everybody in check a little bit more because it does get a little crazy in there sometimes. I'm going to share the link now if you want to call in. I'm going to do it in the chat section here live on YouTube this morning. We're on nearly 500 live viewers, which is great for this time of the morning for us. Make sure you're hitting that share button, though. We're going to do an experiment in a stream very soon where we want to see, we only average about 10 people sharing our streams per video. So when we look at the analytics, only 10 people click the share button, and often 3 or 4 of them are me when I'm sharing it on social media platforms. We want to try something soon where we want to see what happens to the video if at least 100 people share it. We're going to tell you, put a template together on how to share it, what to write. We want to see what just want to see what it does. We're just trying to test a few things at the moment. Really just for insight more than anything else. So make sure you're sharing these streams on your social media platforms, WhatsApp groups, any Facebook groups you're part of, any Reddit groups you're part of. Share the story, get it out there, get it trending. Let's do this. Yes, Ramadan Mubarak. Didier Werner there says Ramadan Mubarak. Absolutely to everybody who is partaking and partaking in what is a very difficult time, but a joyous one at the same time for many people that you speak to from the Muslim faith. Daz here says Raiola is the reason I don't want Haaland. He will want him to move again inside 2 years. Yeah, I mean that could definitely happen. That's the risk. That is the risk that you take. That is the risk that you take if you get into bed with Haaland. It just is. Terry, do you think if we get a world-class CDM, Ollie will play on the front foot more often? And are we good at that, as we saw against Spurs many times before as well? I think it's not even about how Ollie sets the team up. It's about the team having the consistency via ability to play it. So in the second half, what helped us is McTominay and Fred were very good. In the first half, McTominay and Fred's passing was poor. Their ball retention was poor. Man United, of course, made some changes. Paul Pogba started to cut in from the left-hand side a lot more. We pushed Luke Shaw forward. This led to a number of changes being made by Tottenham. So Tottenham brought on Sissoko, which meant they had a double pivot rather than a single CDM themselves. That then gave Scott McTominay and Fred a lot more room to feed the ball into the wide fullbacks. Our fullbacks being quite far pushed forward and wide meant Tottenham's fullbacks didn't really venture forward at any point, nullifying a lot of their attacks. It then gave Man United the freedom to move the ball a lot better. That confidence then grew. Some of our moves actually came off. We made quick one-touch passing at the edge of the boxes or first-time crosses into the box, and that benefited the great movement of Cavani. There was nothing overtly difficult or groundbreaking about what Man United did, and I don't mean that with any disrespect towards Ollie. It's stuff we've seen all season on a very regular basis. We simply have. But it was just done. It was 3 or 4 additional players just up their game a little bit. Can Fred do that consistently? No. Can Declan Rice or Ndidi? Absolutely. So it's about adding additional quality into the squad as well. We're going to go to some of the first callers here this morning. I heard someone write something. I want to see what they said there. I lost the comment. I hate when I scroll and then I lose the comment and then I can't find it. Anyway, let's go to some of our first callers. We're going to get David on the show first thing this morning. David, welcome to the Terrace, mate. What do you want to say?
Just wanted to say that if City get Grealish, they're going to be unstoppable. And football will not be the same. They'll just be overpowered.
No, listen, I hear you on that. There's no doubt, young man, that if Manchester United... if Man City sign Grealish or any star this summer, it can be very, very difficult indeed. David, thank you very much for calling the show, bro. You do need to be over the age of 16 to phone into the show. I didn't want to be disrespectful there to David. We do need to know that because we don't know whether you've had permission from your parents to phone in. So please be over the age of 16 to call into the Football Terrace. Did Terry say Ramadan Mubarak? Yes. Well, I don't know why you're laughing. That's a respectful thing to say, is it not, Khalid? It's like someone saying to me Merry Christmas. There we go. Anyway, we move forward. Next on the show, we've got Bailey Tech. Welcome back to the Terrace, mate. What are you saying?
Yeah, just calling in to talk about all things United right now. And I kind of feel like Fred and McTominay, or McFred as it were, they get a bit of a bad rap. And the reason why I say that is because early on in the season, it was actually Pogba that was starting. And then he was giving the ball away. He was giving away penalties. He was doing all sorts of crap. But it's understandable because he had COVID. He didn't have a preseason, all of that jazz. Fair enough. but he was costing us. He was costing us points, and I think people forgot that. Fred and McTominay stepped in. They got us to first, yeah, and yeah, they've had some games where the managers probably told them play a certain way, and they haven't looked as spicy in the midfield in terms of their passing ability. But at the end of the day, every time the manager kept on putting Pogba back in that position, he'd be off the ball somewhat. So they started trying to throw him in forward positions. And there was this hoo-ha in the beginning about what his best position was. And I think that's when he was trying to get into the number 10 role. But obviously, Ollie didn't want to do that. But I know Pogba is a world-class player. And maybe parts of it is that he wants to leave. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I feel like we got to put respect on Fred and McTominay's name because of where we are in the league. There's so many midfield combinations that are actually better than theirs, but they've been effective in what they've been doing. So even though, yes, we would like better players in that position, I think we should still give respect on the so-called crap players that have got us into second place. So that's my take on that one. And Cavani, if he's going to go, then he's going to go. If he's going to stay, then I feel like he helps out Mason Greenwood and all the other young strikers around him. So I feel like that's positive. But other than that, Declan Rice, swap for Lingard, that's probably what I would call shrewd business if the club's able to pull that off. If they do pull that off, then, and we get that right winger, because I feel like the right wing is the main position for me. I know a lot of people are arguing CDM, centre back, but our team is in balance. If we can balance out that attack here, it's almost like I think back to before Liverpool started running riot on teams, and then they went and got Mane, they went and got Salah, and when they was making these purchases, I was thinking, but the problem isn't the attack; it's the defense. But they kept up there, but they balanced out that attack. They started smashing teams, and before you know it, the crown jewel was the centre back in the end that took them to that next level. But I feel like we were smashing teams earlier on in the season, then that tapered off a bit, and then we started scraping victories. And I feel like if we balance out that right-hand side, we'll go back to smashing teams. And if that centre-back is that Achilles heel, as it were, we can address that. Because I feel like the centre-back pairing that we do have, they're able to get a load of clean sheets, but we just have to play a bit. We just have to play a bit within ourselves to get them clean sheets.
Oh, I understand that, mate. Sorry to interject. I think one of the things I was listening to this morning is that the approach Man United are going to be putting into players this summer is going to be very, very different to that of previous summers. Rather than trying to say to people, we need you, Sancho, to come in to elevate us back into being top four contenders. Man United can factually turn around and say, listen, we're solid in the top four now. We qualified last year. This year's been even easier for us. What we now need is for you to come in and be what you've just said, that cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. And it's Ollie outers are not going to agree because they don't think Ollie's good enough. I sit in that space of I'm really intrigued to see what Ollie can do if the holes in the squad are filled. But if you bring in that centre-back, that CDM, that Sancho signing, and we don't lose anybody significant this summer, Ollie then has a very strong squad of players. There suddenly becomes zero excuses for Ollie. Barring, we have 15 players injured all season. There becomes no excuse for Ollie not to deliver at the very least a title challenge. And I think what the difference was when it comes to Liverpool is they made a lot of signings that were not looked at as world-class. Mane's, Firmino's, Salah's of this world. But they were playing very, very good football. They just needed that final couple of pieces of the jigsaw. Virgil van Dijk, Alisson, Fabinho. Once those three players, when they were signed over that 6-month period, suddenly this strength and this spine appeared. And if Man United add a top centre-back next to Maguire and a proper CDM in the middle that has good ball retention, good passing ability as well, so a Declan Rice or an Ndidi, you will see Man United's spine improve. and it could give us that impetus to push things forward. You know, we could get to a point in the next 3 or 4 Premier League games where we're only 5 points off the top of a very good Manchester City team. So if we're not going to, my point is this, if we're going to stick with Ollie, we have to back him 110%. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be in this in-between little phase, which is just going to leave everybody being frustrated. Bro, great call. Thank you very much for coming on, having your say this morning. Viewers, make sure you're smashing that like button right about now. Do some more of these comments this morning. We need to play Luke Shaw on the right wing so he can cut in with his left foot and curl a shot into the top corner. I hear what you're saying. But no, it's not going to happen. 100% exactly that. The team is unbalanced. And yes, that's something that it doesn't matter how good or bad the manager we have at the football club is. They are all going to struggle to a degree if there is imbalance within the squad. This is just normal. If there's imbalance in the squad, it's going to be difficult. People have just got to learn to, it's not even about learning to accept it. It's just knowing exactly how things are. If there's imbalance within your squad, it's going to be very, very difficult for your team moving forward. Going to go to another call here. Make sure that like button's being hit. We've got Maestro that's coming on now. Maestro, good morning. Welcome to the Terrace. What do you want to say?
Hi, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. What do you want to say?
What I want to say, yeah, I feel like West Ham fans, they're very unrealistic. So, for example, I'm a Chelsea fan, and they're linked to Tammy Abraham, and they would only purchase him for like 20 odd million. That's what they think is reasonable, which is very unreasonable. But they want to put a 90 million price tag on somebody like Declan Rice. So it just doesn't add up. I feel like West Ham fans, they need to be put in their place a bit in this summer. So I really want them to lose Declan Rice and lose any sort of hope in the future.
Fair enough. There's shots fired at West Ham this morning. Maestro, thanks for calling in and having your say. Really appreciate that, mate. Not happy with West Ham for whatever reason there. Remember, you can phone in if you want to have your say. I'm going to share the link now in the comment section below for you this morning. This guy is toasted, is what Sean has said here. I test grandson. I know you're just being a troll, mate. That's why I read your comment out. For a bubble, mate. For a bubble. For a bubble. Some of the comments, mate. We've got man like Abs on the show this morning. Abs, what you saying, mate?
I'm good, Terry. What are you saying, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good indeed. What do you make of this Declan Rice, Lingard story and the Cavani news this morning?
The Cavani news, brilliant. I think for another year, I think he's definitely needed. And the thing I like about Cavani is he's not going to be the out-and-out starter every single week. If we're going to rotate our strike force between him, Martial, and Greenwood, I think that's good enough. We don't. I've said this to you before. We don't need a striker. I feel like Harry Kane is the last piece of the jigsaw. The Declan Rice one's interesting. The problem is that we've got 100 million to spend this summer. For me, Jadon Sancho, I still think should be our top priority. Yeah. And it's just the how much. And your previous caller said something which is really true. If West Ham are saying 70 million plus for Declan Rice, Man United should walk away from it. For me personally, anything over 70 million is too much for Declan Rice.
Why? Why though? I'd love to understand why you think that.
Okay, so because obviously we all know English tax, la-di-la-di-la-di, that's why Declan Rice is going to be exorbitant money. But if we're going to get Jadon Sancho for 80 million, who's got experience of playing in Champions League football and got stats of 20 goals and 20 assists in the season, but Declan Rice has never played in a European competition, personally, I think he's passing. There's a question mark regarding it, because if he comes to Man U, we're going to see, can he break down a low block? That's due to be confirmed. And over 70 million for CDM, for me, is for Declan Rice especially, is too much. I still feel like there's too much we don't know about him for him to be 70 million, because if Declan Rice is 70 million, how much is Kante? How much is Ndidi? How much is all the other top end sort of certain defensive midfielders?
I understand your point. I think they're all in around that price. I think that's what you're going to have to spend in the modern day game now to sign a top level CDM, one that can pass, one that's got good movement, one that, got age, got mobility. When you look at what Man United lack in that midfield, every single midfielder we've got, barring and even Paul Pogba, the one flaw in Paul Pogba's game is his mobility over short distance, which is important in defensive elements. Pogba, when he gets into his stride, is very, very good, but over the first 2 or 3 yards, he's lacking in that. And that isn't an attack on him. It's just a cast iron fact, in my opinion. I think Declan Rice being worth 70 million, I totally agree. You're always going to get a higher price as the asking element.
Yeah.
But using Jesse as a make weight in some way. Okay, look, we'll do a deal. Because you remember, they wanted a buyout clause. They wanted an option to buy for around £10 million for Jesse Lingard, as an example. He is now proven to be worth a lot more than £10 million. Other clubs are looking at him. It's about being smart and using the Lingard situation to create a good deal for Declan Rice. Or, okay, we'll give you the 70 mil for Declan Rice, but we're going to be getting 35 mil for Lingard. Actually, you're offsetting that against it. So you're walking away with 40 odd million pound being the price. Because if you got told right now Declan Rice for 40 million pound, I think we'd all bite their hand off for it.
Yeah.
It's the same equivalent, really. So I think it's going to be interesting. Lingard's done a lot of favours here for Manchester United. In terms of the Cavani news this morning, that United are trying to convince him to stay. They almost want to. It seems like Man United want to relieve pressure of having to sign another goal scorer this summer. Do you think it's wise to do that, or do you think United should be looking to go all out for a Haaland, all out for a Harry Kane this summer, break the bank, break the records, and secure for the next 4 or 5 years an absolute superstar striker?
Personally, I don't think Man U are going to do it. I don't think we need to do it. At the end of the day, this thing of, we need to get a top-end striker that scores 30 goals a season is so early 2000s. Nowadays, the goals, it doesn't matter who scores. As long as someone scores and is shared out, that's the most important thing. Because let's say in a season, if Rashford gets 20 goals a season, Greenland gets 20 goals, and let's say Martial gets 20 goals, we're in the day, that's a 60 goals in a season from our strike force. I would love to get Harry Kane. I don't think he's going to leave this season. Haaland, I think he's going Chelsea, me personally. I think Roman, like you call him, Sugar Daddy Roman, wants him. And if he wants him, he normally gets him. So for me, like KJ said something yesterday, if we can get Danny Ings on a free, I'm sorry, I think Danny Ings is so underrated and he would suit our style of football. Again, it's all about sort of suiting Ollie's style of football. And if we could just get a good enough striker that can just be part of our core strike force that can score goals, then I would definitely take that. For me, a right mid and the other thing with the CDM, it depends. Is Ollie going to go back into a 4-3-3? Because we're all saying CDM, like Ollie's going to change his formation. Let's just say I wouldn't be shocked if we don't get a CDM and we get a right mid and a centre back, and that's us done.
No, I understand that. I mean, I don't really care about whether we use a single pivot or a double pivot. I think that's a conversation that only really comes up because people don't like the style of the way Ollie plays. In my opinion, I look at it very much along the lines of right now Chelsea are using a double pivot, and no one's kicking off at them for being negative. Like everyone's, it's amazing. They're not even calling it a double pivot; they're calling it twin sixes to try and finesse it, right? If you had a Declan Rice or an Ndidi next to a Pogba in a double pivot, there wouldn't be an issue because Pogba could still go. The thing is with a double pivot with a 10 in front, when it comes to in-play movement, it becomes a 4-3-3 anyway because Pogba pushes up and Bruno has a natural proclivity to drift out to the right-hand side. It's just the starting formations. At the weekend, Pogba officially started on the left-hand side of the attack, but he spent the majority of the time in that 10 position, and Luke Shaw filled in on the left-hand side of the attack, and then Fred covered the position and the holes that Luke Shaw would leave moving forward, especially in the second half. So a lot of people saying, you're wasting Pogba playing on the left. Yeah, his starting position was there, but he most of his touches, most of his kind of damaging touches against Tottenham came from more central positions. So I don't really care for that. I think it doesn't matter whether you start in a double pivot or a single pivot. What we don't have at the moment is a good ball winning, ball playing midfielder with good mobility. We don't have someone that ticks all three of those boxes. Declan Rice and Ndidi for me do that. We have players that tick one of those boxes, and like that's it. We've got like good ball winner from Fred. We've got a good mobility from McTominay, good passing from Matic. We need someone that encompasses all three of those attributes together. And I think you see that new balance and a new dimension to Man United's play, even in this formation.
But Terry, let me give you an example. Let's say example. Let's say if West Ham price Declan Rice out, because I think they're going to price him out, and let's say we do sell Jay Lings, but Man United bring in a Bissouma, a Jadon Sancho, and the Paul Torres from Villarreal. For me, that's a brilliant transfer window. Because Bissouma, I think, is very underrated at Brighton. I think he's definitely a top 6 level sort of centre midfielder. But I think you've said this before. It just depends how Man United spend that 100 million. Like I said, for me, a right mid, we haven't had one since sort of Ronaldo has left. If we can get sort of, obviously I want Declan Rice, but if we got a Bissouma, I'll be like, I understand why you got him. He's very good as well, and he brings elements of what Declan Rice does. A centre back as well. Like for me, I feel like Man United fans are very harsh, obviously, and we understand why. This transfer window is going to sort of determine if we're going to get on their backs or not. But for me, the main target should be Jadon Sancho. As soon as the transfer window opens, sign him, get it over done with, because the Euros, everyone's price is going to jump up, and we don't want to get involved in that as well.
No, I understand that. And I think what doesn't help Man United fans in all of these conversations is how bad our transfer windows have been. So last summer, a lot more is coming out about it now. United got essentially, you look at it this way, could our season have been better? In my opinion, yes, it would have been. We would never have gotten mad in the summer. But if we would have had Cavani 4 or 5 or 6 weeks earlier, and he would have had a bit of a pre-season with us, because although our season was still going on in Europe, he could have come in and got training, even missed the first 2 weeks of his Man United career because of obviously like having to quarantine and stuff. He could have come in and done a proper pre-season with the coaches, which I think would have led to hopefully less injuries than he's had so far this season. He could have been out, that opening 4 or 5 weeks is where we lost 3 of our games in the opening 4 or 5 weeks. 3 of our 4 defeats came literally in that opening period. Yeah. If we would put our transfers in sooner rather than later, if they were integrated better and used from the start more, we may have had a slightly better start to the season, an extra 3 or 4 points. Right now, that extra 3 or 4 points with a game in hand over Man City could put us in a title race. Could. So for me, what I want to see happen is us operate better. I don't want us chasing. It's not about, listen, if we don't get Rice and we end up with Bissouma, I'm behind it. I'm like, right, I rate the kid. I think he's excellent. Let's see what he can do. I'm not precious about me getting what I want as a Man United fan. I'm more about, let's get this business done sooner rather than later. Don't chase Declan Rice until deadline day and then sign Bissouma, because that isn't good. Like, potentially that isn't good for Bissouma or us. He then comes in, no preseason, no time to integrate. And then the expectation on him is massive, because it's like, well, we didn't even really want you. What you saying, bruv? It would almost be the Fred deal again. And Cavani has actually surprised me this year. Cavani has been so much better than I thought he would be in the games that he's played, because I just felt it was Falcao all over again, if that made sense.
And Terry, just a crazy thing, because you said this in the summer. If we assigned Cavani, Terrace earlier on, Man United fans would have probably said that was a good transfer window. But because they played with our heartstrings and said, we're going for Jadon, it's coming in. And then we all went heartbroken. What just happened? And we got, if you actually look at the signings we made in the summer, they were actually good signings. But because they played with our heartstrings and played with our emotions, we were like, no, that's shit. What they've done is take the piss out of us and things like that.
And it weren't even the players, bruv. Like, if you'd have asked 100 football fans in the summer who's better, Terrace or Luke Shaw at left back, I reckon 80 to 90 would have picked Terrace. Terrace's deal has elevated Luke Shaw to that next level. Cavani came in and was a much better signing than I thought. But as I say, my reasoning for being angry is that we allowed it all to be very last minute. And when we've done that before at Man United, those signings have invariably failed and flopped. So it just felt like once bitten, twice shy. However, as good as they have been, it could have been even better if they had had a proper. I mean, we could have started the season with Terrace and Cavani in the team, And maybe those extra 2 fit players that could have had a proper pre-season because everybody else had only finished the European campaign 3.5 weeks earlier. Maybe that would have given us a bit more impetus when playing Crystal Palace. You know, we beat Crystal Palace in the opening day of the season, as an example. That may have led to us not being beat 6-1 by Spurs, and all these little things. It could have had a much better effect. So I want to see our business done. It's going to be harder this year to get all the business done early because as soon as players join up with their squads for Europe, they will stop looking at transfer deals out of respect for their nation. So that isn't a Man United problem. That's a football-wide problem. But get the groundwork done. And I think what would make Man United fans really happy this summer is if they could see, let's say, one high-level signing done before the Euro starts. I think that would set everybody at ease. If Sancho or Rice or Basuma, whoever it is, we got that deal done and in before the Euros begin, I think a lot of people would be able to sit back and relax and go, okay, we're moving on into that right kind of space. Maybe there has been that change in direction, and half the time it's about having faith in what you're doing. But there's certainly going to be an epic summer, whether people like it or not, involving. It's going to be a huge transfer window for so many clubs. There's so many sagas that are going on, and it's all about this. I feel very much this summer it's going to be the sellers versus the buyers. I almost feel like clubs that are buying are almost going to try and club together and work out, unless they're both competing for the same player. If you find that, let's just say Man United are like, listen, we're not going for Haaland, and Chelsea are like, yeah, we're not going for Harry Kane. There could be a way of orchestrating this window together to try and drive price down. And I think clubs are going to have to do that from a business standpoint to try and set precedents. Having said that, selling clubs are going to try and work together to do the same thing. Look what Man United were already doing by leaking to the press that PSG and Real Madrid want Jesse Lingard, as if they don't want Lingard. You know, we've got to remember, no one other than West Ham even wanted him on loan in January. The world hasn't suddenly changed their opinion inside 3 months. But listen, Abs, great call, mate. Thank you for coming on the terrace and having your say. All the best, mate. Make sure you're smashing that like button with us this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Early stream today. We're back at 5 o'clock with more Champions League previews. And then, of course, live straight after the Chelsea, Porto, and the PSG Bayern Munich game today. Make sure like buttons are being hit, share buttons, subscribe, and all that jazz. I'm going to go to one more call here. We're going to get Jeremy on the line. Jeremy, morning. Welcome back to the terrace. Who do you support?
I support Manchester United, actually.
Lovely. What do you want to say this morning, Jez?
All right. I do agree with you about the Jadon Sancho. Getting Jadon Sancho, but I was also considering something about the CDM position, like Soumare from Lille. You know the guy?
Who?
Boubakary Soumare.
Samari, yes. I thought you said Samari. Yes, Samari. There was a lot of talk about him in January 2020. It went a bit quiet in the summer. Is he a player you rate?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think he's a very good option for the CDM position. And he's very young, too, so he can actually be the perfect replacement for Matic, for consideration. And then the centre-back position, what do you think of Pau Torres?
I said this yesterday. I've never seen him. I've never really watched him play too much, so I don't have too much of an opinion on. I don't have any opinion on him. What I've read about him is very, very positive. What I like the sounds of is that. What I like the sounds of is that he is a left-footed centre back, which would give the team more balance with how we play. The reports I've read about him and the things people say about him is very, very positive. But I don't have a personal opinion because I've never seen him play. Is he someone you rate? Is he someone you rate?
Yes, I do. But considering the options that we have, especially and the competition of who people want, if you had the option between Torres and Koundé, which would you go for?
Well, I've seen Koundé play, so my preference is always there. But
you end up being in a transfer battle with other teams that want him.
No, I understand that. But then Pau Torres is also wanted by Real Madrid, and Pau Torres is Spanish. He's of that age. You know, their best two centre backs are looking like they want to leave, or they're going to be leaving in the next year or so potentially. So for me, it's a difficult one. I can't do the comparison though, because I've never watched Pau Torres play, so I can't say who I would prefer. My gut tells me Koundé anyway, just on what I've read, what I've heard, and what I feel. But if you've watched both, I'll bow down to your superior knowledge on that. Listen, Jeremy, good call this morning. Thank you very much for coming on the terrace. Everybody that's tuned in, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Make sure you're subscribing. But until next time, take care. Goodbye.